Hello and welcome to PopFlash. I'm Jack Westerman, joined by Jason Moses O'Toole, and this is everything you need to know about Counter-Strike this week. Our first story this week is PGL Season 1, which is an online league culminating in LAN finals in Bucharest from the 2nd to 4th of October. Now, Jason, there's $110,000 on the line, 10,000 of which is travel support, and only 4 teams get to go to this LAN. So as we look at the groups here, Group A and Group B from Europe, this is already looking like a pretty stacked field for only 4 teams to get through. So let's jump in and have a little bit of a closer look at Group A to begin with. And the big story here, as I'm sure viewers will be aware, is virtus.pro steaming their way through the upper bracket here. Sorry, lower bracket. They came through the lower bracket and beat Na'Vi 3-1 in the grand final of the group. Fair to say they had a phenomenal run through this lower bracket, right, Jason?
Yeah, well, and once they got knocked down by Na'Vi, it was all VP from there. Taking out Kingwood, taking out TSM, which was big. That went to 5 maps, and then even when they replayed Na'Vi for the winning spot in that group, they were at a 1-map disadvantage from coming from the lower bracket. But this is a virtus.pro team that, before the major was in like a little bit of a slump for a couple months. Everyone was saying they're kind of done. They haven't gotten back to that level. And now, I mean, they were one of the best looking teams at the major, and they've kept that run up. They've kept that form now. And they look really, really good. So yeah, that was a fantastic run through the lower bracket for him. And I mean, Taz individually pretty much just won him a spot in that Group A by his performance on Train against Na'Vi.
Okay, well, TSM do drop out of Group A. They have one more chance in the last chance group to qualify for the LAN, but we'll come back and talk about that in a second. In the meantime, let's have a look at Group B. Again, what you might expect here. Fnatic sweeping their way through the upper bracket and getting into that grand final. The grand final for Group B is actually Wednesday, so when PopFlash airs, so we can't talk about that. But the 2 main storylines in this group for me are the fact that Fnatic have breezed through, but also the fact that this new Titan roster just can't seem to get things going, especially compared to Envious, which were the team that they traded players with, right?
Yeah.
Which of those 2 storylines stands out for you the most? Fnatic's dominance or Titan's struggle?
Well, I mean, Fnatic's dominance at this point, I think we've all just come to, we've gotten comfortable with it because it's been happening for so long. So, I mean, no need to really talk about that. The new Titan roster struggling, that doesn't surprise me. It's going to take a little while, and I think that's going to, more than anyone, it's going to test existence as the in-game leader because he's going to have to adapt. Because his teams, in the past, even when they had Kenny S and Apex on the roster, looked like they were trying to play like an older style in a new meta, and they hadn't really caught up to it. I think that's still signs of that coming through here. So he's going to have to adapt very much as an in-game leader, get used to having Shocks back on the roster, having a player like him who's going to be the focal point. But in this group, I think the biggest thing is Mouse Sports. I think that'd be the best storyline to really mention, just because Nico coming back into the lineup just had a dominant performance. Like you said, as we record this, they just finished that Dignitas match a couple hours ago, and he was insane. He had something like a plus 59 kill death ratio in that best of 3. So they're going to be a scary team in this, going forward, even against Fnatic in this best of 5.
Okay, well, as we said, even if Mouse Sports do lose that match to Fnatic tonight, as this show airs, they'll go to the last chance qualifier. So let's have a look at who's currently in that. So again, a lot of good teams already in this last chance group: TSM, Na'Vi, Kingwin, Titan, Dignitas. But only one team gets to advance to the LAN finals from here. So given that there's only one spot and so many talented teams, is this pretty much anyone's group at this point?
Yeah, kind of, I guess you could say. I mean, the cool thing about this league, the way it's formatted, the amount of teams that go through, it's just so incredibly cutthroat. And you look at this last chance qualifier, the teams that are in it, it's just like, holy hell. To me, actually, I think it's going to come down to TSM versus Mouse Sports. I think Na'Vi is starting to have some cracks showing. They talked about some internal struggles right around the time of the major. Been hearing rumors about that. Kingwin is that team who got top 8, so a lot of people are putting them up in that group of tier 1 teams, so to speak. I don't think they're quite there yet. And then Titan and Dignitas, they've both been struggling. They haven't reached peaks that we've seen them at in the past. So really, I think I know we don't have that data yet, whether it's going to be Fnatic or Mouse Sports. I'm going to say Fnatic will win that, but I think it's going to come down to TSM and Mouse Sports. Those are the teams we'll see there in the final for that last spot. And at that point, with TSM playing the way they are, it's kind of a toss-up. If Nico can have some great games, they could steal that away from TSM.
Okay, well, I mean that is really a true group of death, isn't it? One spot for those
Yeah,
teams. So best of
absolutely.
luck, best of luck to whoever gets that. And last but not least on this topic, we can't forget about North America, of course. Their qualifier starts a little bit later. It's not until September 8th, and we've got Counterlogic Gaming, Luminosity, Method, and Team Liquid
Yep.
in contention here. So. Um, just looking at this group, it seems like CLG and Luminosity should be the favorites. In your opinion, Jason, who is going to take this group?
I honestly, this is so crazy. I think it's gonna be CLG. Um,
Right.
yeah, and I don't normally put them as my standard bearer for any kind of competition they're involved in, but I think if there's I think I favor CLG against Luminosity in these regional matchups. They've been playing against them very much. I've liked the improvements that CLG has made. Luminosity likewise has made some very good improvements on their team, but I just think that against a team from the region, I think CLG is going to take that one. Luminosity would fare much better against European opponents, but CLG is going to move on here.
Our second story this week is the CEVO Professional Season 8, which kicked off a few weeks ago and is another online league which will culminate in LAN finals. Last season, I should say, they were in Columbus, Ohio, and I expect them to be there again. There are $175,000 on the line for this season, and that includes travel support, as always, for a lot of the teams in attendance. So, first of all, let's have a look at the North American standings for this league. We've got Team Liquid up at the top, currently standing there with 6 points. Augulus, Sponsorless, Complexities in the middle around there. But I think the first thing I want to talk about on this leaderboard are Luminosity and Counterlogic Gaming. They're way down there in 7th place and 8th place, respectively. But that seems a little bit out of character for these teams, right? Are these two teams you expect to rise up this leaderboard throughout the course of the season, Jason?
Yeah, they will. You look at the teams at the top. I mean, Liquid has 3 games played. Orgulus has 4 games. I mean, 3Sup is 6 games, and then Luminosity has 1. CLG has 2. So, as they move on into the season, get more matches played, they'll rise up. The scary part is, and this is something I don't like about the scoring they have for this, is you don't get a bonus. It's their best of 2s, but you don't get a bonus for winning both maps. You just get 2 points. So the point system I think is a little goofy, but
Yeah.
I mean, that's the thing. CLG's got to be careful though, because even when they catch up on games, if they continuously get these ties and they're not making the points to rise up, I mean, they're gonna find themselves still staying far behind in the standing. So they got to start winning some matches versus just settling for those 1-1 ties. So yeah, the season will go on. Those two will climb higher up. It's going to come down to that point system though.
Okay, and well, another team I want to talk about just briefly here is Complexity, this new Complexity roster, who are essentially the ex-Nylum guys. International viewers will probably recognize Semphis most on that roster. They're currently sat there at 6th place, 1, 2, and 2. And last week you kind of alluded to the fact that you don't expect these guys to be a top North American team just like that. How do you see them faring in this initial season for them?
They're going to improve. They have a sick amount of individual talent on that team, and they're one of the teams that CLG tied a match with, going 1-1 on maps. So I mean, they have the skills to compete. I just don't they just don't really have a great in-game leader, tactical leader. They don't even Warden as a coach is great in terms of being the guy who keeps everyone calm, the mental coach. Not really known for being great tactician or strategically. So I mean, in this division, I would expect them to be top 5 or top 6. They're sitting at 6th right now. So there's a lot of teams they can beat up on just in terms of pure skill. They've got Enemy and Mortality and Follow Esports there at the bottom that they should be able to cruise through those wins just based on their individual talent. But once they get to the top, once they're playing Team Liquids and CLGs, Luminosity, I mean, they're going to struggle a little bit more against those squads.
Back on CEVO, let's jump across to Europe now and have a look at the standings over here. So the first thing we might notice looking at these standings is that there is a distinct lack of what we call tier 1 teams. We've got the likes of Hellraisers, Property, but then we've got Dobry, Infinity, Kingwin. Kingwin is a tier 1 team. Efrag, all mixed in there. There's also virtus.pro and Na'Vi who have direct invitations to the LAN finals. Of these teams on screen, who do you see joining them from this group? Walk us through some of the teams. here?
Dignitas, I think, who's in the lead right now. If they can maintain this form in this league, which they should be able to.
Yep.
Kinguin, I would see up there as well for sure. I think that would be a big upset if they weren't one of the top 2 teams at the end. Flipside also has been playing really, really well. And then this will be great for Titan, a team who, like we just mentioned, is struggling a little bit. So this will be a great, league experience for them, even if they don't make it. I mean, these guys just need all the help they can get in terms of getting themselves into that match environment with these new rosters. So I would expect that it would be Dignitas and Kinguin to eventually make it all the way. Kinguin's suffering that same thing where they've only played 1 match, so they'll move up those standings really quick from 11th place.
Last but not least this week, I've got some quickfire topics for you, Jason. So, quick as you can, give me your thoughts on the following news stories from the week. First of all, the next Valve-sponsored major event has been announced as DreamHack Cluj-Napoca in Romania, hopefully pronounced correctly. They've partnered with PGL for production, and DreamHack Stockholm is now the European qualifier.
I think it's awesome. Just getting over the chills of the last major, and now we're thrust into. We already have this new announcement, so that's pretty sweet. Excited as well for the PGL production that's getting a lot of props deservedly. So excited to see what they're going to do on this kind of a big stage, but everything's pointing towards another really, really good, another really successful major.
And last topic for you this week, Jason. Ninjas in Pajamas have released Natu as coach.
Yeah, I mean that's kind of expected. It's kind of like not for performance reasons, but we know that there are going to be changes coming in NIP. Those rumors have been swirling now for multiple months, off the back of another. They got top 8, which is great for a team like Kinguin, but NIP has those higher expectations. So I don't think it's the first change that's going to be made, but it is a little bit of a bummer because I've worked with Natu. He's a very, very smart guy when it comes to Counter-Strike, and I think if he did have more time with that team, he could improve some other issues. But I think it's just kind of a sign of things to come in the future.
That's it for this week. I'm Jack Westerman, joined by Jason Moses O'Toole.
And we'll be back next week with another episode of PopFlash.